Another day, another game, another game with head coach Will McCoy. It's Tyler Fernandez, your host, presiding. All right, Coach. Tough one against Barren County on Tuesday. I know one of the main things was it's good to see Nick Simpson before the game get the 1,000 point ball, be a member of the 1,000 point club as a coach. How proud of you are of him that now in your tenure that you've been able to get two guys as members of the 1,000 point club?
Very, actually three.
Because
Ben Carroll, it happened my first year, but yeah, proud of him. That's just a testament. He's been a solid piece for what we've tried to accomplish here since his freshman year. He had some opportunities in a few of those games, and obviously been a 3-year starter for us. So he's a hard worker, and he puts the time into it, and it's paid off for him. And, he's even done that missing a few games the last 2 years with some injury and sickness, missing a game this year. So to be able to do that is 10th guy in school history. That shows how tough it is to accomplish that in this district. So we're proud of him.
Mm-hmm. Another guy, too, I've been keeping track of that's sort of on the way to it is Asher Pettis.
Mm-hmm.
He had himself a pretty good game as well. The big three all finished with double figures. I know that's something to you as a coach that you definitely want to see from those three. Nick, Garrett, and Asher to all be in double figures.
Yeah, I think that's when we're at our best, is when they're all three scoring the ball efficiently. That's the word that I think cost us Tuesday. We weren't very efficient. They all scored it, but it took a few too many tries at times for a couple of them. And you're going to have those nights. Barren played phenomenal offensively. They're averaging about 3.5 threes a game. They made 11. My cousin Cade Hardy made 6 out of 7. That really set the tone for them and kind of shifted the way we were trying to guard them, and the way I think some of our kids got a little too antsy on the other guys on the perimeter. That allowed some stuff at the rim for them late, and we just got to be more solid down the stretch on both sides of the ball. That's been our message since that game. It's going to be the message today is possessions. Coach Will actually said this other day to our JV crew, as the season gets longer and extended, possessions get more valuable. That's why you see a lot of scores getting lower in some of the bigger games and tougher matchups. So we've just got to take pride in that and just try to put a complete one together, man. I think we played okay for about 2.5, 3 quarters, but against good teams, it takes all 4.
Yeah, it was kind of like almost a tale of two halves, I'd say, against Barren County, because I feel like at times that there a chance you guys were able, at times I think rebounding too, I think was a big thing that I watched back on the tape. Yeah. It just sort of felt like you talked about it early on in the season about the ball bouncing your way, but then all of a sudden it just felt like the ball bounced their way.
Yeah, we out-rebounded them 31-22, so we won that category, but the timeliness of some of theirs, to your point, were big. There was one possession where it stayed on their end forever. There was a foul call, there was an over the back, there was an out of bounds. First possession of the second half, to your point, Garrett jumped too early, they got a rebound, Nick stole it bounced off his hand. So there was just some weird plays like that you look back on in a 2-possession game were pretty meaningful. So every one of those matters, and every one of those counts, so able to watch it back and learn and grow from it and hopefully move forward.
Coach Will McCoy of the Greenwood Gators boys basketball team head coach joining us. Now, Coach, let's go ahead and prepare for another district matchup, this time hosting Warren Central. Mm-hmm. Special night here because it is homecoming night here at the Swamp. But before we talk about y'all's side, let's talk about Warren Central. And you got to start off with talking about Robert Ant McAfee, who has been a huge piece to this Warren Central team. You also got to mention Jarek Kirk as well, and Armani Bird as well. But what has Warren Central been able to do so well that even when they're in close games, they still find ways to win?
Well, I mean, they shoot the ball exceptionally well. They're averaging 8.5, 9 threes a game, and McAfee's numbers are off the charts. The way he's been able to sustain that the entire year, averaging right at 22, and he was shooting like in the 60 percentile early in the season from 3. I think that's balanced out a little bit, but he's still in the high 40s, which when you shoot, I think he's attempted 148. When you are shooting almost 50% on 150 attempts, that's elite. I mean, that's an elite shooter, and even his misses are soft and they're in the rim, and with Bird and Kirk and their length to go after those offensive rebounds, that gives them a chance. So it starts with him. He's a really good player. That was a huge pickup for them to add him to their roster in the offseason. That was a big deal. They're a very different team without him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But I want to talk about y'all's side because I know last time y'all played them, you guys stayed the course, especially against a tough place to play, especially at Tim Riley Court and Dragon Gymnasium. What's going to be the most important thing for you guys to do to make this, to make here a tough place, for Warren Central to attempt to get a win and try to hopefully turn the favors into y'all's direction against the Dragons?
Well, we got to get back to believing. I still feel like there's possessions and segments of the game where we look like we're trying not to lose, just trying not to make mistakes, and then we'll flip a switch and we're way too aggressive. We're going after situations just not with good intelligence and not playing with a very high basketball IQ, whether it's game win on defense or poor shot selection on offense, and you just can't have it. I mean, one thing I'm proudful of, we played 22 games. Bowling Green won by 16 against us Friday. It didn't feel like a 16-point loss. We had it tied with about 3.5 minutes to go in the third. We've been in every game in the second half at some point all year. And so I keep trying to make my message consistent that we know the last 8-9 ball games we've not played well, and we're still right there. So we're going to find it. It's going to get rolling again. The ball's going to get flowing like it should and like it was early in the year. And when that happens, we're going to give our self a chance to be in those games with the last few possessions. And as long as we're learning from the mistakes we made and growing and keep giving ourselves a chance, I mean, in this district and in this region with the schedule we have, that's all you can ask. And eventually, we're going to win a few of these, but it starts with us. And then secondly, you asked about them coming here. I hope the crowd does their part. I hope it's a big crowd for homecoming, and student section rowdy, the band playing, and cheerleaders are hopefully loud. If we're able to get that helps the environment. Central does a really good job. Their cheerleaders are awesome. Their band's at every game playing loud. They got a lot of energy, and that from covering us and helping cover Western. You want to create an environment that is tough to play in for other teams, and it starts with us and the way we play, but it's also a nice addition of everybody else here that has Greenwood allegiance pulls their weight too.
A couple more questions for head coach of the Greenwood Gators boys basketball team, Will McCoy. Coach, anytime you're talking about Warren Central, you got to talk about the length, the size, everything, the front court pressure. That's going to be a key thing for you guys, is that you're going to have to deal with a lot of pressure that Warren Central brings, regardless of whether they're playing front or past half court. How important is that for you guys going to have to execute it? Because it looked like at points when you all played at Warren Central, it seemed like you guys were able to handle it at times relatively well. Right.
It is huge, Tyler, and that's so true. And it's going to be tougher here, in my opinion. Even though we're at home, we're on a high school length court, and so their length gets longer. There's less ground to cover, and they're able to take angles a little more aggressively, and we have to space them out. We've got to use ball fakes and be intelligent. We've got to throw it to the first guy that comes open. We've got to look ahead. On film, it was very frustrating for me watching today how much we looked backwards the first time we played them and threw it side to side and behind us. And occasionally you need a reversal and you need a safety valve back there. But, man, you got to get the ball ahead and try to get those 3-on-2, 4-on-3 advantages. That's the best way to counter their length, is to try to get some segments where they're a man down because he's back behind us and their pressure. And so we definitely have to take care of it. I told Zach and Joe over there last time, we can't simulate that in practice. I don't have it. I don't have that length. And so we will do the best we can today at practice to throw an extra man or two out there and have a couple of our varsity guys that play big minutes, maybe throw them on the other side, on the scout team side, when we've got some subs in, to try to make it as close as possible. But you've got to get used to it quick and adjust and try not to dig yourself in a hole while you're going through that adjustment.
Final question for you, Keys. Hopefully for a victory for you guys against a very, very tough Warren Central team that you guys played relatively close last time.
Yeah, I think we got to be on the 15-plus assist side of things. We've got to share it. We've got to create shots for each other. We're not a one-on-one basketball team. They're more athletic than we are at essentially every position, and that's fine. We can play to our strengths off that. So it starts there. Valuing possessions more. There's no shot clock. I wish there was. There's not. Our kids got to remember that a 30, 40-second possession is not a bad thing. If you're making them guard and work and we're being efficient with running our offense, and then that's less time they've got the ball and more time we're able to get a good look. And then the glass. You mentioned their length, and we talked about it with defensive pressure, but, man, you've got to rebound against those guys because they go after it. They go after it as a group, and I was watching their South Warren film, and I think that if South could have managed that a little better, I don't know that South doesn't keep that lead they had the majority of that game. I think that's what got Central back in the game is second chance opportunities and the inside presence of them. So we're happy to have Ojari back. We didn't have him last time, so we're hoping that helps out with that matchup on Kirk. Let him and Metter both get a little dose of that. Got to be better on the backside of those post entries. And, team defense, man, you have your matchups. You start the possession, the game with, but transition opportunities, you get switched up. You just got to be engaged and guard.
Mm-hmm. Head coach of the Greenwood Gators boys basketball team, Will McCoy, joining us here in our pregame show. Coach, pleasure, as always, to take the time and join you. And excited to be calling the game against Warren Central. Should be a fun one.
Should be, man. Thank you.
We'll take a break. Starting lineups are up next on the Sporting Times Broadcast Network.